Don't forget to check out my Patreon where we have exclusive content such as Camp Zero Base 1, 17's Nana Tour, 17 in the Soup, Finding Stray Kids, Blackpink House, EXO's Ladder, EXO Showtime, A-Pink Showtime, and tons of other content including extra variety shows, K-dramas, animes, and movies.
Hey guys, Angie here. Today we're doing another little update on my reading. I did a video a while ago talking about some books I read because I do enjoy reading. I'm very much proudly a YA, romantic mystery type person. Like I like romance, maybe a bit of I guess fantasy mystery. What would be like what's Harry Potter? Is that considered fantasy? It's not supernatural. Like that type of stuff. Oh man, what happened to this finger? What why is that one finger? Okay, whatever. Um I guess magical, very YA, thriller, that type of stuff. Like I don't like nonfiction. I try really hard to read nonfiction because I feel like you can't say you like reading unless you read like intelligent books that like teach you things. But I've learned to just say fuck it and just enjoy what I like, which is more escapism, like involving like deeply into like a romance or a mystery or something. So last time I went through some books that I read a while ago because I buy so many books that I ran out of room, and because I also buy so many albums, it's been a mess. And then I also have a collection of DVDs and Blu-rays from over the years. So I like shelf space doesn't exist. So I the last one was mainly going through books that I was getting rid of because there's a book exchange place and you can stack up points and then use those points to buy books from there, or you can just donate them and stuff. So I did get rid of a lot of books. I do keep the ones that I really like, either because I want to read them again or because I really enjoy them and I just want to keep them. So if you want to check out those ones, that's cool. I do have a like tub of like stuff that I keep from when I was a kid. I mean, we didn't have a lot of stuff left, more like when I was a teenager. And I did go through that recently because our AC flooded and thankfully nothing in there was damaged. I wanted to check, and I did go through and get some of those books as well, to just show you guys those ones. But yeah, so these are books that I've recently read, and I'm gonna just talk about them, say if they're good. A lot of these are ones I had for a while that I just haven't gotten around to reading, and I'm very, very glad I did, because I think it's because they were books I've heard of so much. They're LGBTQ plus books. And I bought like a whole bunch when I was a teenager, and they kind of just get pushed back because I couldn't bring myself. For some reason, like they weren't grabbing me, but I never got rid of them because I knew I'd eventually read them, and I'm really glad I did. So first of all, I forgot to mention this book because I let my grandma borrow it, and she never ended up reading it because my grandma likes mystery, uh, uh, sci-fi, like those type of, like when I was young, I would watch like Law and Order with her and stuff. Yeah, like when I was 8, which explains me a lot. Like that is totally makes sense. Like we'd watch like The Fog, things like that, like darker things. So I recommended this book because my grandma needs to get her brain working. All she does is play Candy Crush, and watch TikTok. So I was telling her to read this book, and it looks like she didn't. So, what is this? So this is the book. It's called Run on Red, and I loved it. It was my first proper thriller. I think I've mainly read mystery. So like the Paris Apartment, I mentioned that book last time. It was more like she goes into an apartment and is figuring out what's happened. This is like, oh, it's happening. Like they are part of it. So these two maybe like college girls high school, college, I can't remember. I read this last year. Um, I read this like over a year ago, actually. I read this on the way to my NCT concert and in the hotel there. NCT Dream, which was like in March, April last year. Um, and these girls are on the road and someone's following them. And it's basically all takes place, I think, in 1 or 2 nights, probably like 2 days. Because I don't want to spoil what happens, but like, yeah, it's like 2 days. So you're just going through the chase with them. Like you're literally in the moment with them, which I think is so fun. It was very interesting. I want to read more books like this. Someone tell me more books like this where it's like thriller. Like because I feel like sometimes I get bored reading mysteries because it's a lot of remembering names, and I think it's easier for me to remember things in a movie or a show because I'm also seeing them and I'm able to put a name to a face. But when I'm reading it, if like Olivia, Laura, if there's like a guy named Oliver and a girl named like Olivia, I like mix those names up. Um Also reading, I tend to like this book I probably read really quick because it was a thriller, so maybe like a week. Um that's quick to me. um so like compared to a movie where you're watching it over the course of like 2 hours, you're able to obtain all the information and put things together faster. But if I'm reading something over the course of a few days, I'm going to I won't forget what happened, but I'll forget which character did the thing. The ending is a bit cliche, but it's because this is like my first proper thriller book, so I was excited. I was enjoying it. It was cool. So I will be keeping that one. This book. So this book is one of the ones I was talking about. I have this book since probably like 2014. When did it come out? When did this come out? It was probably 2014 when I bought it because that's when I was accepting my gayness. And, I think every queer person has that moment where they have to find anything gay to kind of feel validated. So for a while in 2014, I was reading gay fan fiction, but then I was like, oh, let me find gay media. So I would watch like the cliche gay movies, and then I'm like, wait, I like reading. Are there gay books? And then this was one of the books, but something about this book, I don't know if it was the cover, like shallow but true. I don't know if it was the cover or something. It never like intrigued me to read it. And then I feel like this description doesn't do the book justice. You can tell this was old and like passed around a lot like through my life because it's like this is not how I'm usually way better at taking care of my books. Like this book has been through it. It's been damaged. So, and it's sticky. It's like sticky. I think there's the price thing there. So yeah, it's been through it. But I finally read this pretty recently. I read like 5 books in the past like 2 months, which is not a lot to people, but that's a lot to me. This was one of them. I love this book. This is a book I read very quickly. It was probably over the course of a couple days. I was invested. I liked the characters. It had a weird mystery that I was not expecting to it. I will say, something about it threw me off, and I read this without reading the back of the book, and it's been in my room for like ever, so I forgot like I didn't know what the story was about. Also, I'm pretty sure when I bought this book, I didn't read the story. It was just under queer books, and I was like, let me buy it. 16-year-old Aaron Soto is struggling to find happiness after a family tragedy leaves him reeling. He slowly remembers what happened. He's slowly remembering what happiness might feel like this summer with the support of his girlfriend, Genevieve. Genevieve. But it's his new best friend, Thomas, who finally gets Aaron to open up about his past and confront his future. As they get closer, Aaron discovers things about himself and that it threatens to shatter his newfound contentment. Yeah, like, Oh, wait. This line is what I, going into this book, didn't know. Like, so a revolutionary memory alternate. I can't read. Me doing a video about books, but I can't read. This is why I didn't like reading in class when they tell you to read out loud, because this is what happens. A revolutionary memory alteration procedure, courtesy of the Letio Institute, might be a way to straighten himself out. Imagine going into this book and not knowing that part. I went through this whole book because I think they mentioned him going in. They mentioned him going into the institute, but my mind just kept skipping over the memory thing because I thought it was more like just a technique. Like when they mentioned it, I thought it was like, oh, um, we'll help you suppress that. And I was like, well, that's fucked up, but maybe this is some type of place that's like you don't agree with their procedures, but people can do it. So I thought they were just having him suppress his feelings. No, it's actual surgery. Like they literally take your memories. I didn't know that. So that might throw you off. You may not like that part because to me, I didn't love it, but I was intrigued by it and I was like, oh, wait, it made it interesting. So I did enjoy it. But there's like parts of it that is crazy. Like it was like, whoa, wait, what? Wait, this? Wait, that happened? Oh my God, that's fucked up. And yeah, so everything makes sense at the end because there were parts of it where I was like, why is he doing that? Like, and then there was like three plot twists at the end where I think I actually read the book and was like I actually like reacted that way, which books rarely make me do that. I feel like I don't react to books the same. Like I rarely cry over a book, even though it makes me sad. I feel like a lot of times I'll cry over movies and shows, but books, I rarely get scared or cry. I feel like it's easier for me to detach when I'm reading. Like I envision stuff, but like I don't know, my emotions stay intact usually. Like I don't react the same. But it made me like gasp a little, like 3 times. And this was a page turner. So definitely don't let the cover fool you. I mean, some people may like this cover. I don't. And that made me shallowly disregard it. And it always made me like, I would look over at my room and be like, huh, I should read that book. And then I never read it. And now I did. And now I will keep that book. All right. I thought I mentioned this book last time, but I checked, and I think this was one of the books that were in the tub of my like older stuff that I just keep away. Because I read it, so I guess I put it in there. This book is another queer book. I think this one's way more recent though. I think there was like a lot of recent terms and stuff. Where do you find the years these books come out? 2020, yeah. Very recent. This is another queer book where Felix is trans and gay, which I thought was a very interesting, and a person of color. So I was like, oh, that's interesting. Finally, like more representation because people disregard transgender people who are gay as to basically being like, I don't know, like there's like a weird thing. It's like, oh, are you really? Like, why don't you just not transition and then be straight? Like it's a weird thing. So I thought it was very interesting. This is you may not love this book. This one's more simple. This is just a simple love story. I'm not a fan of the endgame couple, but I'm not mad at the endgame couple. It's just a cliche that I don't enjoy personally. I don't even know how to describe this story. It's just like a young high school love story. I don't remember who it is. There's someone who's sending him homophobic and transphobic stuff on his Instagram, but I don't remember who the person was. Who was it? I don't remember. Yeah, I mean, I don't know. There's like a bit of the whole oh, I'm black and Hispanic. I think he's black and Hispanic. And therefore my life's harder than your life, which is valid, but sometimes when I see that in shows and stuff, it makes me not like the person because of the way it's portrayed. It makes me go, okay, I get it, but that doesn't invalidate their feelings. You know what I mean? I don't know, maybe that's questionable. It's usually the way it's portrayed. It's like someone will be telling someone something. I think his friend is white, and but they are, I think, bisexual. And I think there was like I just remember being like, oh, why did they write this? It's annoying. I could be wrong. I think he was, and he's rich. He was complaining about something, and why do I keep wanting to say Alex? Felix, is like annoyed and like, you're whining about this, but I can't get into college, and it's gonna be harder for me to get into art school because I'm black, or I don't, I'm pretty sure he's black and Hispanic, and blah blah blah. And I think the book validated his feelings and made it feel like he was in the right. And I personally think you have every right to, of course, like that's not wrong. Felix is correct. But it was very prevalent throughout the book, and he was always disregarding his friend's struggles. And I didn't like that. I think that happened in this book. I could have made that up. That was definitely part of, that was like, it's part of the story, was Felix trying to get into college and stuff. And it's about him being a person of color who is transgender and gay. But I felt like sometimes that stack of minority in him would be used to kind of, it felt antagonistic sometimes. Like, oh, I have, like, the writer did that to give him all these minority points and use it as a message, but I felt like it sometimes came off a bit weird. What is the person's, the author's? Okay, well, this is the, okay, let me look up the author actually. Okay, so the author is black, queer, trans, and uses they, them, and he, him pronouns. So I can't disregard that because they are all the things the main character is. So I don't know, like, I guess this is just me being ignorant. Or maybe it's just me, like, you know, I'm allowed to have my opinion. Like, I can be like, hey, you are writing your story, but that doesn't mean I can't not like it a little bit. But I do love the book. I did keep the book. I remember looking it up, and I think some people agree. Let me see. Okay, so I did read a thing, and I think this person says it best how I felt reading this book. Um, the characters seem to be spouting out ideals instead of actual dialogue. They seem to be telling us, the readers, how we should feel about certain things instead of actually just airing out their grievances and feelings on the characters. And then another person said, where to go? Where to go? The reasons books like these fail as fiction is because people are moved by stories, not by speeches. So basically, like, it feels like the author was educating us instead of telling us a story. And I feel like maybe they should have done is it a biography or an autobiography instead of a story, and then wrote a fiction story, because I feel like they, of course, felt like they had a lot to say about their own experiences. And was kind of taking it out on the book, which kind of dwindled the story a bit, because sometimes it did feel like I was being shouted at, which is weird because I feel like most people reading this are queer, so we don't really, I mean, you can still educate us, but like most people seeking a queer book are trying to find a queer story that's not shown in media a lot, and to kind of use it as a way to kind of scold the audience, which it felt like sometimes, it's like you're rehashing something we already know and experience, and we're trying to kind of find stories through that we don't want to experience again. Like we were like I like Red, White, and Royal Blue was such a cute story because it didn't feel centered around their queerness. It felt like that was like a small part of their issue. It was more the other issues. So it made it fun to read that book. Sometimes and I did like reading this book. It was a very cute, fun book, but sometimes it did feel like I was being shouted at. And I'm like, I already know not to dead name people. Like, I would never do that. Like, I would never. Like, you don't need to like go on and on about that. But it makes me feel like I'm saying that's not a fair thing to put in the book. It's a fine. It was just very much the way it was worded. And then, yeah, I felt like maybe the author needed to like do like let out their issues and then kind of write their story. I felt like it was taking it out in the book a lot, but it's still a great book. Then there's this book, which I don't need to talk about a lot because I'm sure you've seen Love, Simon and probably Love, Victor as well. I did read this book before that movie came out, which made that movie experience very emotional for me. So I do have a sweet soft spot for this book. I was one who didn't complain much, spoiler alert, about the ending of the movie because the ending here is like a private love moment, and in the movie it's a public one. I don't mind that change because I think the queer community, don't get a lot of cliche endings, and grand gestures and things like that. And I felt like while it is cheesy and in a normal situation probably wouldn't be great for two queer men to kiss at the top of a Ferris wheel and not be shouted slurs, like that's probably not very realistic, especially in the state he was in. I'm pretty sure he was in a conservative state. I do think that it was a fine change because it made a queer moment feel like a regular rom-com moment. So I don't mind it. Great book. Definitely should read it. The story is, I haven't read the book since like, when did this come out? Maybe like 2016? Because the movie I think was 2017, 2018. I saw it with my mom. 2015, yeah. So I probably read it in like 2016. Wow, it went to a movie pretty quickly. Crazy. I would love to see one, like More Happy Than Not would be such a crazy movie. Surprised none of Adam Silvera's books have been made into a movie because that's so many queer concepts that would be interesting for someone who doesn't even like seek out queer media to see. Like imagine if the first We Both Die at the End or More Happy Than Not. Imagine if one of those books was a movie, like a movie about you getting a day you die and it just happens to be queer, or a movie about you wiping your memory, about a traumatic experience and it just happens to be queer. Like those plots are so interesting and they just happen to be gay. Like I picked that book, Both of Us Die at the End, because the title was interesting and I saw it was gay. But I probably would have picked that book up anyways because it was an interesting concept. It just happened to be gay. Anyways, I'm just shocked this book is the one that made it into a movie. I love the movie. I watched Love, Simon so many times. I do love Nick Robinson, so that is a part of it. But those books are so interesting. I really think those are better concepts, and both those books were out before this, I think. And they haven't been made into movies. Someone give Adam Silvera, I think the reason this book was picked up is just because, the authors, Blake Adam Silvera is actually a gay male. I'm wondering, and I'm pretty sure he is, yeah, he's Hispanic and an actual gay male. And I'm starting to wonder if that's the reason he's not getting any movie deals, or maybe he just doesn't want them. But yeah, it's a very simple concept. He gets blackmailed about some gay messages he's written between another guy, and the guy wants the one who's blackmailing him wants him to help him get with his friend. His friends suck. So yeah, great book. This is the book that made me go, let me do a video again. I put this off so much because I'm not a very fantasy person. I'm not a fantasy girl. Like it's hard for me to read fantasy books. I feel like because I'm not naturally in that environment, even in media, like the only non-grounded shows I watch are like Teen Wolf and Shadowhunters. Those were the only two that I really watched that are like grounded shows. Like I like shows like Pretty Little Liars, Degrassi, Boy Meets World. I do like cartoony shows like Teen Titans, Avatar, but those are different because I watched those as a kid, so I was already like it was easy for me to love it growing up as well because I already knew the world. It's hard for me to start from scratch. Not because I don't have like an imagination, it's just cuz lots of these terms and stuff kind of Harry Potter was very hard for me. Um and this is like easy Harry Potter. So it actually is, I'm pretty sure, based off of like apparently this was a fan fiction her characters in the book Fangirl were writing, something like that. Or the fangirl book, the girls in the fangirl book, I think maybe writing Draco and Harry fan fiction, and then this is I don't know, something like that. I never read Fangirl, which is strange because I feel like that's something I should read, but it never intrigued me. And I don't know, I felt like it would be cringy because I don't like being called out for things. But yeah, so the first 100 pages were a struggle for me. I was very much struggling. It's very tongue-in-cheek, like on the nose Harry Potter fanfic, but it's not Harry Potter fanfic. But like, you know, it's very, very blatantly like a play on Harry Potter. Like Simon Snow, orphan, goes to a wizard school. They're called magicians here, which I thought was funny because I couldn't take that serious. But like if you get into the quip of it, if you like just kind of go with it, it's fun. Like I can see people being like, oh, it's just Harry Potter, but like Dollar Tree Harry Potter. I think it's better than Harry Potter, and maybe it's because I don't have that like childhood attachment. I only finished reading Harry Potter this year, so I don't have that attachment. So I think if you're a pothead, a Potterhead, you're not gonna probably like this unless you're able to put aside your feelings and just go into it with like open arms. You know, you kind of have to accept it. I didn't care about the side characters. Penelope, I skipped their chapters. I kind of skipped their chapters. Agatha, I skipped their chapters and I understood everything. I don't like reading, if you noticed in my other video, I don't like reading multiple point of view books where there's a main story and you have Simon and Baz's point of view. That's fine. But when there's like Agatha and Penelope, I don't like they're like so far from like they don't correlate. Yes, they're figuring things out as well, but like I skipped their point of view and then I would go to Simon's. Simon would like meet up with Penelope and I would get like caught up on that because they have to tell Simon what they were doing. So it's kind of like, why are you giving me their point of view? It doesn't matter because you just have to read Simon's point of view when he meets them and you get caught up in everything. It's just like an extra 100 pages that you didn't need. I read once we got to Baz's point of view, because I think it took like 100 pages or something until we got to Baz. Like, so I'll give you the rundown. We know it's gay. You know this is gay. Look at the cover. It's gay. So it's no spoiler that him and Baz fall in love. Baz is Draco, basically, but Baz is a vampire. Wait, where's Baz? Baz is a vampire. He's a vampire in denial, though. So there's like a whole thing where... So just think Draco as a vampire, but less of an asshole. they've been roommates at the boarding school for the magicians and I guess other mythical creature people. Well, I guess Baz is still a magician. He just happens to be a vampire. Um, and they've been roommates. So we have an established enemies already. This is enemies to friends to lovers. It's Draco and Harry. But so we already know they already know each other, but we haven't like gotten into. We're just told of their past. Simon already saved the world and everything, you know. So we skip all that bullshit. We skip the first Harry Potter book. And he goes back to school, but Baz isn't there, and he has a girlfriend. Simon has a girlfriend. What's with all the gay Simons? Like, why are all Simons gay? If your name's Simon, just come out. Like, just do it. It's cool. We already know you're gay. Matteo and Simon are like very prevalent gay names in all queer books. So Simon already suspected Baz of being a vampire, but Baz is in denial of being a vampire. Like, he doesn't tell anyone he's a vampire. But, like, Simon already knows. Like, it's, like, very obvious. You're roommates. But Baz doesn't come back to school. And then there's this whole thing. And then there's a girlfriend. There's always a girlfriend. But the girlfriend and Baz, like, flirted or something. So, like, that's weird. But when we get to Baz's story, when Baz comes back to school, that's when things get interesting. I was about to put this book down. Like, this is kind of, like, I want the gay stuff. Just give me the gay. And then Baz comes in and it's gay. It's just gay. Like, yes, our queer icon. He is gay and proud. And one of the lines is like they just slap you with it. I didn't realize Baz was like head over heels already. Like, it is established in his point of view, he's been in love with Simon. I thought it was gonna be like they become in love. Like, I thought it was like, oh, they don't accept that they're in love and that's why they keep bickering and that's why they feel like uncomfy with each other. It's like, no. Baz has acknowledged in his own brain, in his point of view, he is in love with Simon. He's not happy about it, but like he's like got past the denial and he's just mad about it. And as soon as he said that, I binged. I read 400 pages in one night. And it was the most, like, hangover reading ever the next day. I was like, wow, I can't believe I did that. It was crazy. I read how is this not... I'm ordering the next 2 books. How is this not a series? It's vampire, wizard, and gay. Netflix? Why are you doing these other books? This is it. You can switch some stuff up because there's some things that are a little too on the nose. But like, once the story hits a certain point, you're like, oh, this is nothing like Harry Potter. It's easier to understand. And like, there's like some plots in here where I'm like, oh, that's actually very interesting. Me, not a supernatural girly, but like intrigued and able to understand the story. Like, it didn't hurt my brain. I fully comprehended everything. And I was like, oh, that's cool. Apparently the next book is a little less gay, but then the third book's super gay. So I'm very intrigued by that. I will say people complain the romance happens too like 180, but we already know Baz likes Simon. There's no like, the only thing maybe is like Simon accepts Baz's, like, there's not a big talk about it, but there is a talk about it. And it's very much just like, oh, well, spoiler, but like, it's kind of like, so we boyfriends now? And then it's like, oh, are we? And it's like, I don't know. It's like there's like a whole like they like actually acknowledge their feelings. It is like pretty on the nose, but considering other books where they would kiss and then deny it, I was very refreshed to see that they kiss and it's kind of like a, well, what the fuck was that for? And it's like, I don't know. And then the next day it's like, you want to kiss again? It's like, yeah, it's like, it's kind of like, it doesn't feel too angsty in that regard, which I felt was very refreshing, especially for an older queer book where that's like usually a big thing. I thought it was kind of cool that we didn't have to go through that part of like waiting 100 pages for them to acknowledge. There is bantering, there is bickering, there is like after kiss, like angst, but it doesn't last that long, and it's pretty much it's like a regular romance because I feel like queer romances you kiss, and because it's a TV show, usually you don't get like you only get like 2 gay kisses a season or something. They're like, we're not doing it. Like we have to find a way to separate the gays for a bit. But like the gays kind of go against that cliche and actually like there's a scene where they argue and then there's awkwardness and then Simon leaves and you're like, great, now they're not going to interact for 100 pages. But then the next chapter, he's at the door and I'm like, oh, he's back. We don't have to wait and go through nonsense. It's great. I loved it. That was like one of those books. Well, I mean, I did read like 100 pages, but like I said, I skipped like some Penelope and Agatha chapters because I don't care about them. They're boring. Just give me the romance. This book is fine. Don't get it. We lesbians struggle. We struggle for good books. Why? This book's probably the best one I've read, but it's still just. I don't know why the lesbians struggle with writing. Like, I don't understand. Like, why is it. How are 2 people writing this book? It was just boring. So. I don't even remember who ended up with each other. Let me check. I forgot the ending. Oh, wait. Okay. I was mixing up books. Okay. It's been a while since I read this book. I was thinking of a different book. This book was good. This was a good lesbian book. I was so mad. Okay, wait. There was another book. It was I Kissed Shayla Wheeler. Something like that. That book sucked. That's a bad lesbian book. This book's good. This one's a good book. So I remember now. Okay. I think the story was there's a lesbian. She's going to college and she's toxic and gets into toxic relationships with females. Both characters in this book are queer and there's no like having to accept your sexuality. And I think it's a fake dating trope. I think oh, it's coming back. I think she meets this girl at a party and she keeps calling her ex because oh yes, it's all coming back. This book was cute. I would love to see this as a movie. If we have Simon versus the Homo sapien agenda, we need this book because this one's equally like kind of cute and it's not cliche, but like it's kind of cute quirkiness. No, I think she was just her wing woman. She becomes friends with this girl at a party, and then her ex-girlfriend is like, oh, so you're at a party. This is why I exactly don't like you. You keep kissing every girl you see. Because the main character is kind of she's a little bit of a hoe, let's be honest. She's not very loyal. She's not a good girlfriend. So I love a good, non-perfect protagonist. She makes mistakes. She's not great. She has issues. She has mommy issues. And then the girl she meets at the party is kind of just her wing woman. But over the course of time, they end up falling for each other. And the girl kind of gets along with Alex. I think one of them's Asian as well. I think it's the main character. But I always forget what the main characters look like sometimes because they describe them once. I usually remember the other characters. But yeah, it was cute. This is actually a cute book. I was mixing it up with a different book. Definitely loved it. All the books have been gay so far, but that's life. Oh, another gay book. There's this book. This was another book that was on my shelf for like years. It never intrigued me. I didn't care for it. I don't think I like this book that much. It's like it's written very fanficky. It's very short. Like there's barely like um I just didn't care for like the dialogue. This is from David Lederhan, and I believe what else did he write? Because he's a very common gay writer. I think was there a book I liked by him? Oh, he did the book for Will Grayson, which I'm rereading because I forgot what that one was like. Um, I don't. Is this the only book I have from him? Oh, okay. I don't know. I didn't care for it. I didn't care for it that much. Mm, it was fine. It was fine. There's not much to really say. Like, it was just kind of simple. It was written. Oh, it was published in 2003. Yeah, there is some dated stuff here. There's dated stuff. It was fine. I respect it, but I just didn't care for it. I don't even know how to explain it. It was just, it was, I didn't like the writing. It felt like a gay Wattpad story in 2011, which is very specific. Not even Wattpad, a gay story. If you were on Wattpad and read gay stuff, I'm gonna bring back some trauma. There is an author called Skeen Kids on uh Wattpad who wrote a variety of gay stories, and the writing is very similar to that in my opinion. Now Skeen Kids is an author on Wattpad, and her name was Jen. I think she still writes. I'm actually on here right now, and yeah. And there's like a bunch of I think there was like a book called Ethan. There was a couple that she wrote about called Ethan and Greg. I just remember the character named Ethan. It was written like her stories, which is fine when you're on Wattpad and you just kind of expect those stories. Where is it? There's a book called The Other Side. I remember that book. These were like my first gay stories that I've ever read. I've of course seen queer media at that point because I watched like Degrassi. My Stepbrother, a classic. Changing Will. That was the book. Um, uh, so it's a kind of a toxic story, but definitely read it. It was cute. Just don't learn from it. Changing Will, it was like, I think Will was like his brother's friend, and Ethan was like in high school, but Will's like 20, and Ethan is like very sarcastic and goofy, and Will's like very depressed and like it's cute. It's cute. Well, yeah, like that's a very distinct writing style that is very Wattpad, and this is how it felt. I'm wondering if Jen read this book, and that's where she got her writings from, because there wasn't a lot of queer books at that time. So it makes sense. Oh, that I remember Friend Zone and like Love Squared or whatever it was called. She wrote a lot of like Outside the Lines. She wrote a lot of books and then would write books where those characters like met each other. Like she had a whole universe. It was great. Now we have another classic. I apparently read this book with no regrets. No regrets. This book, I was nervous to read it. It lives up to the hype. I had to read this very quickly because I was like, oh, they're gonna make a movie, I think. Let me check. Pretty sure movie. I think it was told there was gonna be a movie. Yes. It's probably being pushed back because of the whole strike last year. But yeah, I saw that and I was like, oh, let me read this. Um, so I read it. It was amazing. It's about a woman who's basically an old Hollywood star and her whole story. And it seems very realistic to how I would imagine Hollywood stars being back then, because it was more like a cultural phenomenon. Like there was like very few big name stars in the olden days. And the only complaint I have, oh, by the way, this is gay. Spoiler, this is a gay book. I read this not knowing that. Imagine my shock reading a book I stupidly, ignorantly assumed Evelyn Hugo is a straight woman. I was a problem because I had no intention of like thinking she'd be into women. I am biphobic. I hate that about me. I did not think I am the problem. I saw her with 7 men and thought that's all she could like. She does love women. She probably likes women more. Valid. Yes. Um, See, there's sometimes fun aspects of reading books without reading the back of books because I never read the back of books. Unless the cover is very vague or the title is very vague, I never read the back of books because I would have probably thought this. Um, the back kind of spoils that. Wow, the back of the book kind of spoils it. Unexpected friendship and a great forbidden love. Like that would have been very obvious. I'm like, oh, is she gay? So yeah, it's with her with 7 men over the course of her life. There's some dark moments of like realization, of course, like of what women, and I think she Puerto Rican? What is she? I think she's something. She's of of a minority. Um, and there's like a lot of talk of her dyeing her hair like blonde and stuff, and um, the boundaries that were broken a lot in Hollywood, especially back then, with her body being underage, things like that. So I love this story, not even just because like those parts happen before she meets a woman she is into, and I was invested even before that, and I didn't know it was gonna be queer. It was unexpectedly queer, and there's some spicy stuff that happened. There's some spice in here, nothing crazy. Um, just like enough spice. Like they don't shy away from stuff. There is a lot of hidden gay love, like obviously, because what was it, the 1950s to the 80s. So you can't go in here thinking it's a realistic depiction of being a Hollywood star. So obviously, uh, there's oh, I don't want to be out. Oh, I do want to be out. Like, there's always like a queer couple in these books where it's like one who wants to be out and one who doesn't. And sometimes you're mad at Evelyn, and sometimes you're like, dang, I forgot what she went through. So yeah, it makes sense that she would want to keep being famous. So like sometimes you're gonna be mad at Evelyn. And it's actually interesting being on the perspective of the one who wants to be in the closet, because usually you're the one who, like, usually the protagonist is the one you side with, but sometimes you're mad at her. But, you know, you gotta remember this is the 80s and 60s and whatever. So, very interesting. So the story is being told to a reporter who, because Evelyn's doing, like, an article, and that's where she comes out in. Um, and they keep going back to the future, and back to the future. I feel like they didn't need to do that. I didn't like the perspective because they go back to the reporter's name is Monique, and she's telling this to Monique, and I feel like we don't need that aspect. And then there's something that happens in the present day that's like, oh, it's like some of the endings, like, didn't need to be there, but it didn't bother me enough, like, because it was just the ending. Like, it was the ending of the present, and it didn't bother me. So, definitely should read it. Definitely not overhyped. You would like it. I promise. You will not like this book, though. This book sounds so cool, and then it's like just not, because it's so cliche. And this is what I mean about, like, this is a thriller book, but it's told in a way that's not thriller-esque. Andrea goes to sleep on her 18th birthday with a near perfect life. Blah, 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 blah. She wakes up the next morning unable to remember the previous night and covered in blood and is a fugitive. Oh. Andy is a fugitive. Her parents were brutally attacked. Her dad's dead. Mom's in a coma. And her little brother Josh is missing. I'm going to spoil the book for you. I'm going to tell you 3 things. And you're going to tell me who do you think did all that? She's adopted. That's all you need to know, is she is adopted. Actually, you don't need to know anything else. I tell you she's adopted. Who do you think did all this? Her birth parents. They tell you on like page maybe 40. Oh, because she goes to this hotel, meets this kid at the front desk who's her age, ironically. And then he tries to help her, and he asks her questions, and she said they're watching the news and they mention she's adopted. And she says, no, it's not my birth parents. Which, if you add that to a story, there's a reason. So as soon as she said that, I was like, great, it's her birth parents. And I was like reading this book the whole time, like, oh, they're making it so obvious. Plot twist, it's not going to be her birth parents. It's not, it's her birth parents. It's her birth parents. I think this book would have been better if it was her. I don't know how you can write that, but I think it would have been more interesting, because the issue of writing this type of book is we're not given... I feel like you can never write this story well. I feel like waking up mystery books can never be written well. Unlike whodunits, like waking up whodunits, where the person wakes up and doesn't remember anything, because we don't know anything either. So anytime we're introduced to someone, it's very obvious they're going to be a suspect. So you can't make it someone we don't know. But then whenever you introduce someone, the main person, the main character is going to suspect them. So you're going to suspect them, but then you're like, well, it can't be that person because they suspect them. And I don't know how you can write it. It's very hard nowadays to write a mystery where it's not obvious, or at least not, like, I don't know how you can, I feel like these type of books you can't do. Because that's why I can't enjoy mysteries, because it's never satisfying at the end. I think it could have been interesting if Nate, the front desk guy, was the guy, or like maybe worked for her parents or something. Because they made him too helpful. And I do like their dynamic, and I did ship them. I thought they were cute. They were probably the most cute thing in the book. They were the only thing that kept me interested. Sucker for romance. I can see other people not liking it, but they make it clear there's going to be like romance in the book because it's written on the back. I don't know. It wasn't well done. It was too obvious. And then she, like, I can suspend disbelief for a lot of things, but some of the things done in this book were just ridiculous. She went back to her house where the murder happened and snuck in her room and was able to get away from the police. You're telling me that thing wasn't taped off. It was. They acknowledge it, but it still wasn't believable because no, that will not happen. You cannot go back to your house, sneak in the window. And I'm pretty sure they didn't have a car. So it doesn't make sense to me. Girl in the headlights. I remember looking it up because it was just ridiculous. It was just not very, I kind of skimmed through some of it. I don't know. Is there a good book where the characters are like young, like YA, but like the mystery is actually like really good, like a murder mystery? Like we did One of Us is Lying, and that one actually did have a good plot twist. I don't know. This one wasn't good. I gotta put it over here because I'm putting that one. We're giving that one away. It's been a while since I've read this book. This is a dark book. Please do not read this if you're triggered by SA, pedophilia, etc. So I held off on this one for a bit because I knew it was gonna be dark, but it was often recommended on a lot of websites for like, oh, if you like this, when I was looking up some books to buy. And so not spoilers, just if you don't want to hear about those things, then skip ahead. This is about a girl who gets groomed by her teacher. I read this book at the beginning of the year, so I'm kind of foggy on some things. It's kind of hard to read it, because they're not writing out like smut of like what happens, but they don't shy away from the realities of it. So I can see people saying this is romanticized, but I think it's more of like an uncomfortable experience that the author wants you to feel uncomfortable. You're supposed to be uncomfortable reading about 15-year-old Vanessa's sexual experiences and grooming from her teacher. I don't really know how to explain this book without not spoiling things. I mean, there's nothing to spoil. It's just like you have to go into this knowing you're gonna get uncomfortable sexual things. It's how do you to say a slow burn is weird. It goes through all the aspects of the first interaction, and you're reading it, and for a minute you're just like, oh, this is normal. And then there's like little things, and then sometimes I'm like, why are we making the teacher sympathetic? But then I understood, oh, we're reading it kind of from Vanessa's perspective. So sometimes you're sat there like, I don't want to feel bad for this guy, but then it's like, oh no, Vanessa feels bad for this guy, and it's through her lenses. Like, it's like a realistic approach of like, Vanessa sympathizes with this man, not the author making the man sympathetic. Does that make sense? So if you read this book, just know the author is making you uncomfortable, and the author is showing you how victims can sometimes be sympathetic to their perpetrators. Very good book. I will be keeping it. It was I don't know if I'll reread it, but I will keep it. This book is fine. I did watch the movie. The movie has, Eddie from House of Anubis. And Eddie from House of Anubis plays a gay character, so it was very funny for me to watch. And the girl from That's So Raven, Sydney, the actress from That's So Raven, I think she was the main character. This book is, I don't know, I might keep it. I didn't like the ending. I did like the mystery. I did like the murders. That sounds weird. There are, like, they don't shy away from, like, sometimes I read YA things like this, and I'm like, just tell us, like, give us more. I want to be creeped out. And this one did creep me out sometimes. Because they don't shy away from how dark the murders are. Like, I think there was like decapitation and stuff in here. Um, it felt like a Scream. Like the way it was written was very Scream-esque. I feel like the movie didn't show that very well. The movie's not that good. I probably wouldn't watch it if I were you. I think I didn't fully finish it because they did the ending. The ending was not good. The ending did not, it didn't, I forgot how the ending worked. For one, I think there were two kills that they didn't do, which I was looking forward to. I know that sounds weird, but like I was like, oh, there was like a certain barn scene. I was like, I wonder how they're gonna depict that, and they didn't. And I don't know. I think if you watch the movie, it'll be fun to like. It's like a fun slasher. It was fine. I just didn't like how they portrayed the romance in here because the romance was actually very fun. Um, but the changes were just too big because the romance between, how do you pronounce her name? Makani? Makani Young? And the guy that she dates or like has a fling with and stuff in the movie, they didn't portray it very well. And it felt almost useless in the movie. I don't know. It was fine. I think if you're gonna read or watch the movie, read the book because the book does the twist better. I felt like the movie made the book come off even more kind of cheesy than it is. I actually think it wasn't that big. It was fine. It was fine. I don't know if I might give it a go. Um, I read this book because the Namjoon from BTS recommended. I don't remember. It's a was it a biography or I think I can't even remember. Let me check. Okay, so yeah, it's basically a book depicting the life of women in Korea. And if you're watching this and you like K-pop, which anyone watching this likes K-pop because that's the reason if you're watching this, you probably subscribe to me. I think it's important to read this book to get a true grasp because yes, before I read this, I was already very advocating, of course, for women in Korea and in the world, but like, watching videos, I will often make comments about, crazy how they're talking about this female idol. But I think it's important, one, you're giving money to a female author in Korea, so you should do that. And two, if you're not Korean or even Asian, and you watch and consume a lot of Korean content, I think you need to understand that a lot of things that can come off as a bit much from netizens, female netizens, when they talk about certain things, that you need to understand their perspective because it's one thing to watch and consume media, but to read it from someone who is trying to depict how it is to be a woman in Korea, especially in the 80s and 90s, but like there's like people fighting for a lot of rights currently in Korea for females, and it has not gotten better. I just think it's important to read it. I won't reread it. I don't love the writing style, and I don't know if it's the translation. Sometimes it felt a bit. Because it's written for Koreans. I feel like context. There's missing context because you need to kind of. They just say things and expect you to know them, which I'm not mad about. Like they didn't probably expect people outside of Korea to read it. So like sometimes I'm like, as much as I who consume so much Korean media and like I felt like I would know stuff, but like there was definitely things where I was like, oh, I don't get that. Like can you explain it? And it's not explained. It's just kind of like you expect to know stuff about like the system and school, and I'm like, what is like what? And there's a lot of names. I don't know. It was just kind of hard to read it. I don't know why. Like I struggled following it sometimes, and I don't know if it was the translation or just the writing style, but it was kind of hard for me to read it. Um, but yeah, I do think it's very important. Many female idols have been caught reading this book and being shamed a lot, and you know how Korea is. And Namjoon from BTS recommended it, and then people accepted it, which I did say I was recommended this. I like bought it because of Namjoon. Um, please know I bought this before I was properly into K-pop, and I didn't know other idols recommended it. So that's I didn't not buy it because a girl recommended it. That's stupid, but I just want you to know that. Like I know others did too. I'm just being honest of why I bought it. I might actually not keep it because I don't like the writing style, but it was very important to read it. And then I think this is the last one. Um, I'll like quickly show you the ones I'm definitely getting rid of. I read this book, and as a fan of John Green, I didn't love this book. I didn't not love it. I'm gonna keep it because I do like to keep all his books. I just felt like I read Fallen or Stars. I've also seen it in movies. Paper Towns, seen it in the movies. Um fuck, what are the other ones? I've been slow on finishing some of his books, like Looking for Alaska. John. I'm rereading Rogue Racing. Oh, Trolls All the Way Down is a movie. An Abundance of Catherines. Where is that book? Um, I read that one when I was depressed and stuff, so I don't remember that one. I would have to reread that too. I think that was about OCD. Um, yeah, I need to get to the other ones. So Fallen Stars, Paper Towns, Looking for Alaska, Will Grayson, Will Grayson. I read those ones. I'm rereading Will Grayson. Um, I think this is the one I like the least. Personally, it's not my favorite. I do find it interesting. So it's about like this girl, and she's friends with this guy. Was it Davis? Yeah, she's friends with this guy Davis when they were little, and then they like drifted. And then Davis's dad dies, and she rejoins with him to try to figure out what happened. And along the way, they fall in love. Like that's basically the premise. She has a friend named Daisy, who's the most annoying Star Wars fan ever. And as someone who couldn't care less about Star Wars, any talking of that was annoying. And she writes like Star Wars fan fiction and stuff. And I wish her friend died. Uh, it was cute. I like the romance of Aza and Davis. Like they are cute. They're the saving grace of the book. I just didn't care about the dad's death and the mystery. I felt like he could have written that better. But yeah, I do like them. Oh, Aza has I think she has OCD. She was the one who had OCD. I don't know why I mixed that up. And there is a lot of discussion and insight of that, and that was fun. She eats hand sanitizer, and I thought that was really gross, but I like that it was very realistic depiction of like people who struggle a lot do weird, shameful things, and it's like people romanticize disorders and depression and things like that, and then once they really get like an actual depiction of that, they're grossed out by it. But that's just because you kind of like the romanticization of it until you actually meet someone or like understand what it means to have an actual like, whether it's an eating disorder or like depression, anxiety, things like that. Like until you actually meet someone with those things, sometimes you don't get a real depiction of that. And I don't know, does he have OCD? Because it was, yeah, because that's, I was like, it was very realistic depiction. Um, so, uh, I thought it was like, I was like, that's very realistically depicted. But yeah, it was fine. I don't not like it. I'm very curious to see the movie. Like, I will watch the movie. Um, and I think the movie, strangely, might be better than the book. I'll have to check it out because, um, um, someone said it was a good depiction of anxiety. Too good. Um, it made me feel worse about my own anxiety. She irritated me a lot. She showed me the worst parts of myself. That's what I mean. I think that's probably why I didn't like it. I felt like she annoyed me and then made me hate myself because a lot of things she did. I don't have any diagnostics of whatever issue I have, but I felt like I related because I can't afford to see a doctor and get checked. And I'm 25, so I'm like, well, fuck it, I'll just keep living this way. There was things she did in here where I was mad at her and annoyed at her, and I was like, wait, but same. And the way she talks to herself and the way she depicts herself made me go, she said something like this, and it made me hate myself. 1 second. Okay, well, it's not like a certain part. It was just like when she first kissed him, she like can't stop thinking in her head about that she's kissing him and like how the reality of that is gross. And I was like, yeah. A little too relatable, I guess. And how like she was trying to get in the moment of kissing him. Um, where was it? Check to see if his microbes stay in you from his saliva. I like making out with so many layers on, our breath steaming up his glasses as we kissed, and he tried to take them off, but I pressed blah blah blah. Yeah. His tongue had, and then a thought occurred to me, his tongue had been in my mouth. Yeah, like the reality of those things is really gross to me. And then she says this. When I undressed, toweled off the sweat, and then let my body cool in the air, my feet, blah, blah, blah. I untied my hair, then stared at myself in the mirror. I hated my body. It disgusted me. Its hair, its pinpricks of sweat, its scrawniness, skin pulled over a skeleton, an animated corpse. I wanted out of my body, out of my thoughts, out. But I was stuck inside of this thing, just like all the bacteria colonized me. See, that like made me feel too real about it, but I don't have issues of the bacteria. I just agreed with everything else. Like my thing isn't the bacteria. It's just sitting there and be like, we're just bones with skin on them. And sometimes I overthink that, and it's gross to me. So yeah, I actually do like this book. It was just, she would go on those rants about things, and then I'm like, well, shoot, my brain goes on rants about those things too. Maybe that's why I hate the rants about those stuff, because it felt too real. But yeah, so I was trying to read this book, and this was one of those books where I was trying to read smart things to make me learn stuff about myself, but this is dated stereotypes, and I even read like a lot of reviews on this book and how people say it's not that realistic to being an actual introvert, but it could still make you learn things. So I was trying to read it, and I got to like page 133, and I realized I can't do these books where it's just a lot of information. It's just boring. I don't know how people sit and read things like this. I don't know why. What category is this book in? Is this, it's because it's not a biography. Is it self-help? What category is this? I guess it's when I looked it up, it's only under nonfiction, and I'm like, personality, psychology, I don't know. This is why I was bad at school. I can't just sit and read stuff like this. It took me like a year to read to page, what page is this? 114. Because it was just like telling me this. And I'm like, okay, but like, can you write it more interesting? Like, it's just telling me the same thing over and over. And he demonstrates his research by allowing me to act as if I was one of his subjects, albeit not inside of the fMRI scanner. As I sit on this, it's just it. I don't know. It's just boring. I can't read nonfiction. I have read like biographies, like Dan Howell's book. I'll like put that in the next one, I guess. The next binging. Will Smith's book. One Direction and 5 Seconds of Summer. Zayn's book. Like those things. I don't know if you want me to tell you about those, but like I never really thought to put them in these because I'm keeping them because I love 5 Seconds of Summer and Zayn and Harry Styles and stuff. But yeah, this book is boring. Couldn't read it. I want to learn about my introversion, but that was a dated book, so um here are books I never even like bothered finishing and stuff. I loved YouTube and I still love YouTube. Like I read I guess I'll add Zoe Suggs books and stuff, and I know it's a ghostwritten book, but I did like it. Um but yeah, I got this because I did like Joey Graceva, and then I got rid of his biography because I don't like him anymore. I never actually read this, but yeah, it doesn't look that good, so I'm getting rid of it anyways. And then I was trying to read this because I bought a lot of like mangas and stuff, and this was a gay one, but I don't know, I didn't really like how it was. I couldn't follow it. There was something about it I couldn't get into. I didn't. Oh, wait. Yeah, I just made it to this far. And I guess make sure I almost lost this. Um, I just couldn't get into it. I don't know. So I'll get rid of that one too. And yeah, and then I have Attack on Titan, but because I watched the show, I don't really feel the need to. I don't like it enough to keep the manga version. But yeah, definitely read a lot. So let's review here. Getting rid of this. Our Dreams at Dusk. I guess I'll keep this one for now. Getting rid of this. Getting rid of this one. Oh no. Getting rid of this. Getting rid of this. And oh, I'm getting rid of this one too. But we're keeping She Gets the Girl. Carry on. I'm buying the next 2 books. I've been trying not to buy books, but I have to continue that story. Simon vs. the Hope SAP Agenda. More Happy Than Not. I guess Jin Young. Turtles out all the way down. Oh. My Dark Vanessa. The Seven Husbands of Evelyn Hugo. Felix Ever After. And then Run on Red. So yeah, definitely recommend those books. And I'll let you guys know. I'll probably be reading a lot recently, like because I've been binging a lot of books and stuff. So it's very likely we will be back sooner than last time. I'll see you guys in the next video. Bye.
손을 감싸쥐는 바람결 우리 안에 서로 좀